Laura, an art director at a renowned advertising agency in New York City, was in the midst of a major campaign when her phone started buzzing incessantly. It was a familiar number from another state. Upon answering, her younger sister Clara, with a trembling voice, reported that their mother, Marlene, had been hospitalized after a sudden illness. Clara's words hit Laura like a punch in the stomach. "Laura, you need to come now. We don't know how much time she has left." Without hesitation, Laura found herself closing her laptop and leaving her stylish office behind, along with sketches and notes. As she hurried through the bustling streets of Manhattan to pack her bags at her apartment, Laura's mind was flooded with memories of simpler days in North Carolina, playing in the backyard under Marlene's watchful eyes. Those sweet memories now mingled with the overwhelming anxiety about what she would find upon her return. Arriving under the clear blue sky of her hometown, Laura was greeted with tight hugs and tears from her father, Roberto, and Clara, who were eagerly waiting for her. The town, with its quiet streets and the scent of fresh grass, seemed the same as in her childhood, but stepping there again felt strange to Laura. On the way home, they stopped at the local grocery store where Laura ran into Michael, her ex-boyfriend. He still had the easy smile and charm that had attracted her years ago. Michael, now the store manager, expressed his surprise and genuine concern upon seeing her. "Laura, I never thought I'd see you back here, especially under these circumstances," he said, his gaze revealing a mix of joy and melancholy. The encounter left Laura disoriented. She hadn't expected old feelings to resurface so quickly. As Laura adjusted to the small-town life, she noticed curious glances and heard whispers about her life in New York. A family dinner was scheduled for the next evening, where Laura planned to reveal her relationship with Eric. The table was set in the backyard, under the stars, and the air was thick with anticipation. When Laura mentioned Eric, describing him as a talented and dedicated artist, a silence fell over the group. Her father, always a businessman, cast a stern and disapproving look. "A house painter? Laura, you should think about someone with bigger ambitions," he commented, unable to hide his disappointment. Laura felt the weight of her family's expectations clashing sharply with her desire to live an authentic life, away from the social pressures of her hometown. There was a palpable tension in the air, and she found herself torn between her duty to her sick mother and the life she had built with Eric, far away. The evening ended with an uncomfortable silence, leaving Laura feeling isolated, even surrounded by her family. She walked over to the old swing in the backyard, where she spent hours pondering whether she could, or even should, try to reconcile these two very different lives. A week had passed, and Laura's mother was back home with the family, but there was still a strong expectation among them, since it was not yet known what had caused her illness or what her real health status was. Meanwhile, the emails and calls from her agency in New York became more urgent, clamoring for her immediate return to lead a crucial campaign. With a suitcase of clothes and a heart full of intentions, Eric boarded the first flight after a week from the incident to North Carolina. He wanted to be by Laura's side during this difficult time, even without being invited. Upon landing, he headed straight for Laura's family home, where the surprise of his arrival was met with cold and distant looks, especially from Roberto, Laura's father, who eyed him with veiled suspicion. Roberto, not hiding his disapproval, greeted Eric with a weak handshake and said, "We weren't expecting you here, Eric." Laura's mother, though weak, offered a tired smile, but could not hide the discomfort in her eyes. Eric, determined to prove his worth, dressed in simple clothes and began making small repairs around the house, trying to ease any tension with his effort. He painted the worn fence and fixed a door that had been creaking for months, all under Roberto's suspicious gaze. While working, Eric tried to engage in conversations with Laura's friends who came to visit. However, Michael's words, who frequented the house under the malicious insinuation, quickly spread, which at the very least generated questions and assumptions among those present. Laura, completely exhausted with everything that was happening and already stressed about her mother's health and family pressure, found herself at a devastating emotional crossroads. The tension peaked one night, after a tense dinner where Roberto openly expressed his doubts about Eric's intentions. That same day, Laura and Eric, already exhausted by the comments and intrigues caused, faced each other in a heated argument. "I just wanted to help, Laura, but it seems no matter what I do, I'll never be good enough for them, Or for this town, Eric vented, his voice laden with frustration. Laura, with tears in her eyes, responded, I know you came here for me, Eric, but it's very hard when everyone I love seems against us. I don't know what to do. Feeling rejected and lonely, Eric made an abrupt decision. Maybe it's better if I leave, Laura. I don't want to make things worse for you here. With that, Eric packed his things and left before dawn, leaving Laura in a state of desolation. She stared out her bedroom window, questioning the true intentions of the people around her, and wondering if she could ever reconcile the love and loyalty she felt for Eric with the ties of her family and friends. The morning sun shone through the windows of her room when Laura unexpectedly walked into her mother's room, hoping to find her in the usual fragile state. To her surprise, Marlene was sitting up in bed, laughing and chatting animatedly with a nurse. Relieved to see her mother so energetic, Laura paused at the door, listening to the conversation unnoticed. You have to keep taking your medication, Marlene, even if you feel better, the nurse said in a maternal tone. Marlene, with a mischievous smile, replied, Oh dear, I need to keep my daughter around a bit longer. A little drama doesn't hurt anyone. The laughter that followed sent a chill through Laura's heart. The truth of those words hit her like a cold splash of water. Had she left everything behind for a lie? Stunned, Laura entered the room, confronting her mother with a trembling voice. Mom, what did you mean by that? Why are you pretending to be sicker than you actually are? Caught off guard, Marlene tried to brush it off. Laura, I was just joking with the nurse. Deep down, I knew something was wrong. Why, Mom? Why manipulate me like this? Laura struggled to maintain her composure, the words heavy as lead. I just wanted you to come home, dear. You were so caught up in your life in New York that you barely visited us, Marlene confessed, her eyes pleading for understanding. Laura felt a mix of anger and sadness. You can't play with people's lives like that, Mom. I left my career, my relationship, everything. Disappointed in her mother, Laura began to question all her relationships. At the same time, she started hearing rumors about the lies Michael had spread about Eric. With a troubled mind, Laura confronted Michael in person. Michael, I heard you've been saying things about Eric. Why would you do that? Laura asked, suspicion clear in her voice. Michael, uncomfortable, tried to evade. Laura, we all just want what's best for you. That guy isn't right for you. You don't have the right, Michael. You helped destroy something important to me, Laura retorted, her voice filled with emotion. The confrontation between Laura and Michael, witnessed by several townspeople, marked a turning point. Feeling betrayed and alone, Laura made the difficult decision to return to New York, leaving behind not only her family, but also memories of a community she no longer recognized. Heartbroken, but determined to rebuild her life, Laura packed her bags. But before she did, she wanted to put an end to everything that had happened. With the revelation about her mother's condition, Laura called for a meeting. Seated at the head of the dining room table, where so many happy meals had been shared, she looked at the familiar faces of her closest family and friends. The air was thick with tension, and the silence was heavy. I remember when this house was filled with laughter and love, but now I see it was also filled with secrets and lies, began Laura, her voice steady, though her hands trembled slightly. The truth is, it wasn't just my mother who deceived me. There's something else I need to say. Everyone stared intently at Laura, some with expressions of confusion, others with concern. Michael, you and I have had many moments together, but there are parts of our story that no one here knows. Moments I left in the past, but that hurt me deeply. Michael turned pale, looking around for support that didn't come. Laura, I don't know what you're talking about, he said, his voice wavering. I'm talking about the abuse, Michael. About the fear I felt. The things you did and said that made me feel small and worthless, Laura continued, her voice rising in intensity. I kept it a secret, but no more. A murmur of shock ran through the room. Laura's parents, who had always seen Michael as the perfect match for their daughter, could not hide their surprise and disappointment. Roberto stood up, his expression grim. Is this true, Michael? He asked, the authority in his voice silencing the entire room. Michael, now visibly nervous, couldn't respond. Everyone present, who until then seemed united, began to fragment. Some stood up in support of Laura, while others murmured among themselves, doubting the accusations and feeling betrayed by being pitted against one of their own. Laura then told everyone about how her former relationship actually was when they were away from friends and family. She detailed how he often compared her with other women, and how he disrespected her when he secretly sent messages to her friends showing interest in them. With the truth finally out in the open, Laura felt a mix of relief and desolation. She needed to escape. She needed to breathe. Her thoughts turned to Eric, the only person who seemed to understand who she really was. With an urgent need to reconcile with him, Laura packed her bags and headed for New York. Arriving at the apartment they shared, she found Eric looking out the window, his gaze lost in the city skyline. He turned when he heard the door open, his face marked by sadness, but his eyes still had a glimmer of hope. "Eric, I'm so sorry for everything. I was so confused, so lost with everything that was happening, but I've realized that I can't let the past decide my future," said Laura, approaching him. "Can you still forgive me?" Eric looked at her for a long moment before responding. "Laura, my heart has always been yours, even when you were miles away. We just need to figure out how to rebuild what was broken," he said, reaching out to her. As they embraced, the city around them continued on, indifferent to human drama. But for Laura, it felt like a new chapter was just beginning. A chapter where the truth not only set her free, but also healed. Re-energized by their reconciliation, Laura and Eric planned a small wedding, a celebration that would be truly theirs. They decided it would be in a charming urban garden, inviting only close friends and family who genuinely supported their relationship. Laura's parents, Roberto and Marlene, arrived in New York a few days before the wedding, remorseful and eager to mend ties with their daughter. "Laura, we are truly sorry for not seeing things as they really were," Roberto said, clearly moved. "We want to be here for you and Eric, supporting you in whatever you need." Marlene, still fragile, but with a newfound clarity in her eyes, added, "And I have something to say that I should have said a long time ago. I knew about the abuses committed by Michael. It was wrong to keep it a secret, Laura. I thought by protecting you from harsh truths, I was keeping you safe. I was wrong." Marlene's words made Laura embrace her, the two crying, forgiving, and beginning to heal past wounds. "Mom, I understand. And thank you for finally sharing this. Now we can heal together," Laura said, her voice firm and full of love. Laura and Eric's wedding was not just a celebration of their love, but also a symbol of new beginnings and overcoming adversity. Laura, now stronger and wiser, looked at the faces of the guests, feeling deep gratitude for those who had stayed by her side. Eric, holding her hand, whispered, "Ready to start our new life together?" Laura smiled, her response a whisper of agreement, as they danced under the stars in the sky, ready to face together any challenge the future might hold.